Hi, thanks for joining me for this this preview of England Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, so Sri Lanka England. Normally I do this a few weeks before, a little bit more beforehand than just a week, but I've been a little bit ill, which you may be able to tell in my voice, and been moving house, so a little bit later than normal. But let's get stuck in. I want to talk about Sri Lanka first. I'm going to spend most time talking about England. I think this is a big series for both teams. Probably didn't think that probably 6 months ago, but considering how things have panned out for the last 6 to 8 months, it probably is a big series, particularly for the English, and that's why I spend most time talking about them. But for Sri Lanka, look, they've won one of their last 17 tests. The positive spin is that the last one was just 2 tests ago against South Africa, and it was a situation where their bowling attack finally managed to get some traction. Rengana Herath took 9 wickets in that match. Although if you're looking at this as like a big breakthrough series for Herat, and that's certainly the bowler that Sri Lanka's hopes have been resting with mostly, because he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Murali, which hasn't happened. Unfortunately, the rest of the series doesn't look too promising for that. He only took one other wicket in the other 2 matches, so 10 wickets in the series total, with 27.7 was the average. So not necessarily a reason to think that Herat has finally arrived. He probably is what he is at this point, sort of a fringy test class bowler, but he'll be very important in this series, particularly getting to the issues with England and slow bowling, and we'll discuss that in more detail soon. But Herat, against England, his numbers are not good. 2 wickets a match at 49.83. That's obviously not going to get it done. It's not going to come even close to getting it done. Even his econ rate, and Herat's sort of a specialist econ guy, as you'd imagine, for a slow left armour, was 3.12 against them. So basically did everything poorly. England, very comfortable against Herat. The numbers there are based primarily on, I think it might be entirely, on his efforts in England just recently. England had their way with Herat pretty much. The positive spin on that, I suppose, if you're looking at Sri Lanka, is that this is in Asia. And again, we'll get to that in a moment. The bad news is it was only a matter of 9 months ago. So how you read into that depends on what your priorities are in terms of reading the series. Look, Sri Lanka will be crazy not to play 2 slow bowlers here. I suspect Mendes will get starts in all 3 matches against the English. His record against the English is reasonably good. Well, it was only one test. He's only 1 for 66. However, he averages 29.01 in Sri Lanka. Sorry, that was what I meant to say. So averaging 29.01 in Sri Lanka. Those numbers Sri Lanka would take in a heartbeat at the moment. As something to give you an idea, they're averaging about 43 in the last 17 matches with the ball. So if Mendes had that big series against India in 2008, people thought he was going to be the next big thing. That didn't come to pass. He's been left out of most of the test matches for the last year, 18 months. But England have potentially problems against slow bowling. That's where Mendes will hopefully come into his own. But Sri Lanka have got to play 2 slow bowlers here. Got to make pitches conducive to slow bowling and go down that route. The batting you'd think would be okay. They should be able to get their 550 odd runs per match, but probably not more than that. Obviously, the English bowling attack is very good and it counted itself very well against Pakistan, despite the issues that the batting card had. Which brings us to the English, and those issues were really the focus of that series and where things went wrong. To give you a bit of an idea against their problems against slow bowling, the Syed Ajmal, Mohammad Hafiz, and Abdul Rahman bowled 221 overs in the 3 tests. They bowled 70 overs, 73 overs, 74 overs in each test. A huge amount of overs bowled by the slow bowlers by Pakistan. In those 221 and 2/3 overs, they took 48 for 751. It's an average of 15.65. So Syed Ajmal, Mohammad Hafiz, and Abdul Rahman just absolutely ran through this English card. 48 wickets in 3 tests. So nearly all 20 wickets in each test taken by these guys, and at 15.65. Amazing stuff. The strike rate was 27.71. To give you an idea, Dale Steyn has a strike rate less than 40, about 39.9 wicket every 39.9 balls, and that's historically great since World War One. So 27.71 is amazing. 15.65 is amazing. They absolutely demolished them. There's no question about that. Their pace bowlers for Pakistan only bowled 109.2 overs, so they only got 30, 35 overs of pace every game. They still bowled at 29. To give you a bit of an idea of the scope that England were decimated. And that's why I think Sri Lanka will have to bowl two slow bowlers. That's why I harped on the issue. Um, is this sort of typical? Look, I'm looked at three batsmen that England build their card around: Alistair Cook, Ian Bell, and Jonathan Trott. And I actually mentioned their numbers and how well they've been playing going into the Pakistan series. Um, Cook's numbers in Asia are very good in fact. They're six. He's got 6 century rates, scores a century every 6 innings, 41.67 score percentage, a 49.22 average in Asia. It's all exceptional numbers. The numbers are very similar in Sri Lanka: 50%, and 46.33 in Sri Lanka. There's no reason to think over the body of his career that this guy has a problem with slow bowling in Asia. Ian Bell, that is more of a concern. He has a 15.5 century rate, which is quite poor. 29.03 score percentage, which is not great but not terrible, and 36.75 batting average, which is also probably not great but not terrible. But his numbers in Sri Lanka are much better. Small sample size, but scores at 50% and has a 43.5 average in Sri Lanka. So Bell's numbers are equivocal, but not terrible. And as we've talked about before, and widely acknowledged, he's the best player of slow bowling in England. So one would think that he can step up from his performance. Jonathan Trott has a very poor record in Asia. It's only 5 games in, and he's still relatively young in his career. But it includes 2 games in Bangladesh, so the basically Pakistan series in Bangladesh. He's only scored in 1 innings in 5. Twice in 10 innings, and averages 29.7. So as a whole, looking at Cook, probably has basically very good numbers in Asia, and then Bell and Trott, somewhere between average and quite substantially below average, but with some equivocation. Obviously, the Cook numbers you can look at. Well, he's facing pace bowling, primarily being an opener. Willigaderas, Lakmal, Pereira. These are the kind of guys, maybe Fernando, that you're going to see pace-wise there. As I said, I think Sri Lanka will only throw 2 at them. I don't think that there's any reason to think that Alistair Cook will have too much problem on that side of things. If Alistair Cook's batting well, then the whole English card should benefit. Strauss showed some signs of life against Pakistan as well. He's had a very, very poor last 2 years or so. But perhaps he can also help. The amount of runs they score against the new ball will be very important for England, because the slow bowling situation is, even if it's just a psychological problem, and I think it might be more a psychological thing now than it will be anything further than that. We've got to get over this psychological hurdle, because after that Pakistan series, look, all 3 test matches were relatively close. They were contested. I know the first one was a 9-wicket loss, but they were contested test matches. But they still did lose 3-0, and best teams in the world shouldn't lose 3-0. And after this series, they go play South Africa. And Vernon Philander is bowling, and with the best pace bowler in the world, Dale Steyn. At the moment, South Africa are relatively strong favourites. I know they're not perfect either, but they're relatively strong favourites. That's pending England showing that they're back on track and they can handle different conditions, and they've got a certain mental resiliency, which is the real issue here. I think that their play of slow bowling should be more than satisfactory. It might not be great, but it should be okay to get them to win games, considering how deep their card is, the strength of their openers, the quality of their bowling attack, and so on. But I think mentally there's this issue of, this went really bad for us. We need to make sure that we do well. A lot of pressure in these 2 tests. The positive spin, the one positive out of the Pakistan thing is Monty Panesar played very well. Took 7 wickets a match at 21.57. Very good economy rate as well, 2.14. The amount of options that England have in their bowling attack is just growing by the day. Bresnan, Tremlett, Finn, Anderson, Broad has played great. Panesar, Swan. Bowling should not be an issue. Yeah, Sangakkara, Jayawadena, Matthews, possibly Dinesh Chandimal, who's coming along well. Yes, Sri Lanka's got some batting. They're playing in Asia, all that kind of stuff. But I think England will be able to curtail them a little bit on the batting side and keep things under control. I'm not asking for them to kill them, but they'll keep it under control. The question is, can England, against a very, very poor bowling attack, the worst in the world in major Test cricket at the moment, can they perform, or is this slow bowling menace that's in their heads going to knock them over? I think they'll pass the test. I still have faith in this England team. Bit rocked by the Pakistan result, but Rangana Herath has not showed enough to think that he's going to be a destroyer of nations. And Mendes, who knows what we're going to get from Mendes. But I think England will be able to eke out enough. Let's say Sri Lanka get a draw. Let's say the batting does dominate in one of the games. I've got England 1-0. Not an edifying result, but enough to give them some confidence ahead of South Africa. Thanks very much.